Hello there. I'm so glad we found this quiet corner of the night together. Wherever you are, allow the edges of your world to soften and the sounds outside to fade into a gentle hum. There is a deep, quiet comfort in the shared stillness of the late hour. Tonight, we're not rushing toward an answer. We're simply gazing up, following the faint, ancient light that has traveled through space just to meet your eye. Imagine we are sitting by a vast, cosmic fire, the stars. They shine so brightly, so steadily, it can be easy to forget that everything that lives must eventually change. It's a tender thought, and tonight, we turn our attention to the soft, slow, and truly spectacular ending of a star. What happens when that brilliant, burning heart finally grows quiet? When its fuel is spent and its long, luminous life is complete? It is not an ending of silence, but a transformation, a graceful, final act that scatters the very building blocks of new worlds across the cosmos. We will watch this celestial story unfold together, unhurried, letting the wonder settle in your mind like silver dust. If this gentle wandering through the cosmos brings you a moment of peace, consider leaving a soft like and perhaps subscribing. It's the quietest way to help other weary souls find their path to this calm space. Take a slow, deep breath, let your thoughts grow light, and when you're ready, we'll begin this stellar story together. In the deepest silence, before the first whisper of light, there was only a soft, receptive darkness. It wasn't the kind of cold emptiness that feels forbidding, but a deep, comforting quiet, a boundless canvas waiting patiently for its story to begin. Through this ancient dark drifted the simplest beings, tiny ripples of matter, mostly hydrogen atoms. These are the oldest wanderers in creation, roaming aimlessly since the dawn of time, held together only by a deep, persistent hum, the faint song of gravity. This ancient force never sleeps. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began its work, not with a sudden pull, but with an endless, patient invitation. One atom drifted toward another, and then another, until these single sparks of being gathered into slow-moving clouds, cold, drifting nebulae that stretched lazily across light years of emptiness. You can imagine yourself floating among them, surrounded by dust, so soft and fine you can barely sense it. Yet it is this density that cradles the beginning of something extraordinary. The temperature sinks lower, the silence seems to deepen, and the hydrogen waits, unaware of the spectacular role it is about to play. As more matter accepts gravity's quiet embrace, the cloud begins to fold inward. The pull tightens gently, bringing atoms closer than they have ever been. With every soft collision, a gentle warmth begins to bloom at the very center. It's as if the cloud is slowly learning a rhythm, finding a balance between the inward press of gravity and the warmth of the atoms resisting. Somewhere in that deepening tension, a tiny spark begins to form. You can almost feel it, a vibration beneath the silence, the first deep note of fusion. The hydrogen nuclei, pressed so tightly together, collide with impossible energy. In this tiny, fierce moment, a miracle occurs. A small piece of matter dissolves, transforming into pure light. Energy awakens, and for the very first time in this quiet corner of space, the darkness yields. A star is born. You watch its light unfold, soft and slow, like the opening of an immense, brilliant flower. The newfound glow pushes outward, resisting the same gravity that gathered it in the first place. A perfect, invisible agreement settles in the star's heart, a steady balance between the force trying to collapse it and the fire trying to expand it. The star finds its serene purpose and begins to shine its light into the night. This is the quiet heartbeat of the universe, and inside, the star burns with unimaginable energy. Yet, it does not rage. It hums. Hydrogen is quietly transformed into helium, a gentle, ceaseless alchemy, repeated billions of times every single second. The light that travels so far to meet your eyes is the echo of those perfect, tiny transformations, matter singing itself into existence. You can almost feel the warmth of that music on your skin, even across the vast, unimaginable distance. As you drift closer, you notice how utterly constant it feels. Each photon of light that leaves the star's surface begins a journey that may span millions of years before it touches another world. Some of that light will warm a newly forming planet, some will be caught up in dust, and some, after traveling across entire galaxies, will meet your eyes, perhaps even now. The light that was born in that very first moment of fusion might be settling softly onto your face as you listen. Imagine standing on the star's outermost layer, where the pressure is enough to vaporize the strongest materials, yet everything is held in a perfect, harmonious rhythm. It breathes gently, expanding, contracting, and radiating its light. It is alive in its own way, not with thought, but with harmony. Every moment is a perfect exchange between what it gives and what it holds. From far away, a star looks eternal. But these great lights, like all living things, carry within them the seed of their own ending. As the hydrogen fuel slowly burns away, the exquisite balance must someday tremble. The same gravity that patiently nurtured its birth will eventually pull too hard, too deep. Even as it glows, it is already aging. Slowly, gracefully, beautifully. You float there, watching this newborn sun flicker softly through the cosmic dust. You realize how ancient and yet immediate this process feels, as if the universe is repeating a story it has told countless times. Every new star is a beautiful memory of the first one, written again and again in light, and somewhere in that endless repetition lies the reason for our own existence. For it is inside these shining stars that the universe begins its greatest transformation. Inside its core, new elements are forged, not by choice, but by a beautiful inevitability. Hydrogen becomes helium. Helium transforms into carbon. Carbon and other heavier elements become the very building blocks of future worlds. Even as the star lives, it is already preparing the necessary ingredients for life yet to come. The heat radiates outward, carrying not only energy, but time itself. Every second of fusion lengthens the cosmic story, and though stars will someday fade, their light never truly disappears. It simply travels onward, seeking new surfaces to touch. Perhaps, in some distant future, it will touch the eyes of another soul, wondering where everything truly began. You take one final, soft look at the newborn star before you gently drift onward. Its glow fills the void with a rich, soft color. Its warmth stretches across space like a quiet promise. Deep inside, you understand that this light is far more than just physics. It is memory, continuity, creation itself made visible. Every star is a beautiful thought made real. Every photon is a heartbeat of time. As you move slowly away, you begin to feel the pull of gravity again, gentle, patient, waiting to tell you its side of the story. For after the light and the warmth comes the fundamental force that keeps it all together. You let the star's glow soften behind you and listen for that quiet hum, the gravity that dreams is calling. You drift through the silence between the stars, where space feels endless yet utterly filled with purpose. Out here, there are no edges, no walls, only a quiet current that guides all things. You begin to sense it, a pull that never shouts or demands, but hums softly through every atom you are made of. This is gravity, the universe's first dream. It moves through everything you see and everything you are. It doesn't push or pulse, yet its strength is absolute. It binds dust to dust, planet to star, galaxy to galaxy, and in the smallest hydrogen atom, it plants a seed, a quiet, deep longing to belong to something larger. You float near a drifting cloud of gas, the kind that fills light years of dark between the galaxies. Each particle wanders freely, yet gravity calls them closer. They begin to fall toward one another softly at first, then faster, as invisible hands gather them. You can almost hear the sound, not of motion, but of deep alignment. The cloud begins to fold inward, its edges curling like the soft petals of a flower. What was once chaos becomes a slow, deliberate spiral. It's as though gravity is composing a quiet, profound song. Each note is another atom finding its perfect place. And somewhere at the center, the melody deepens, pressure slowly building into purpose. You notice the pattern. Everywhere you look, gravity sculpts the same way. Not harshly, but with infinite patience. It never rushes. It waits until the smallest irregularity becomes a beautiful structure, until stillness becomes a perfect form. The particles collide. Their motions, though chaotic, are destined to meet. Each collision releases a gentle warmth. Each compression strengthens the pull. Soon, a dense core forms, invisible at first, but absolutely full of potential. You realize that this is how every star begins, with gravity dreaming of fire. It is easy to think of gravity as a simple weight, the force that drags things down. But here, in this gentle vastness, it feels more like profound affection, a cosmic embrace that holds the universe together. Without it, nothing would meet, nothing would merge, and nothing would ignite. Gravity is connection made physical. You drift closer, feeling the quiet, rising warmth of the collapsing cloud. It feels intensely alive, as if the universe itself were slowly breathing in. Hydrogen swirls inward, pulled by its own collective desire to be whole. Each atom surrenders a little of its freedom for the promise of unity. At the heart of the cloud, temperature soars to millions of degrees. Atoms crash together with impossible energy, and pressure squeezes them into new forms. What begins as a faint, ethereal glow becomes a burning center. Fusion has finally awakened. The first light slowly seeps out from the folds of gas, diffused and soft, like the earliest dawn through mist. The star has not yet fully settled, but it is deeply dreaming, a bright thought forming within the dark. Gravity holds it tightly, balancing creation and collapse with impossible precision. Every moment gently teeters between fire and fall. You realize how fragile this balance truly is. A fraction more weight and gravity wins, crushing everything into silence. A fraction less and the fire fails, leaving behind only cold dust. Yet somehow, the two find each other perfectly. Oh, the equilibrium born of eternal patience. The warmth spreads outward. The surrounding cloud begins to shimmer as the energy escapes from the core. The gas that once fell inward now resists, pushing gently against gravity's pull. The struggle ends not in destruction, but in harmony, expansion and contraction holding hands. You float nearby, caught in the slow, steady rhythm of it. The surface trembles like a gentle breath, steady and calm. Gravity no longer collapses, but contains, allowing the light within to live. It becomes the invisible heartbeat of every shining star. The more you watch, the more familiar it feels. You realize that the same law that binds distant galaxies also holds your feet to the ground. The very same force that shapes newborn stars guides the ocean tides and the quiet pulse within your own veins. You and the cosmos are woven from the same gentle obedience to attraction. Out in the quiet darkness, new clouds begin to gather, responding to the same unseen whispers you heard before. The slow, patient cycle repeats. Gravity, dreaming, building, collapsing, forming, and holding, never truly ending, never suddenly beginning. Through this endless repetition, the universe writes its profound continuity. You close your eyes and listen. There is no sound, only a sensation, the soft, inevitable pressure of devotion. Gravity does not seek to end things. It seeks to bring them closer, to merge them into wholeness. You feel its hum across every layer of existence. In the peaceful orbit of planets, in the slow dance of galaxies, in the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat, it is all the same story, told in different languages of motion. The universe falls toward itself endlessly, gracefully. You drift farther out now, past the glowing, forming cloud and into the open darkness. The powerful pull of gravity fades to a whisper, yet you still feel its gentle echo, a quiet tether between you and everything else. And just beyond that silence, another question rises like a slow dawn. If gravity holds everything close, what happens when light tries to escape it? You turn toward the slow, perfect glow of the forming star, its surface trembling like molten silk. There, in its immense radiance, the next part of the story waits, a story about heat, about fusion, and about the fire that beautifully remembers its birth. You drift closer to the star now, watching its surface ripple like a slow, glowing ocean. It is not solid, not liquid, but a trembling sea of plasma and light. The warmth that touches you feels somehow eternal, even though it was born only moments ago in the deepest heart within. You realize that every gentle shimmer, every subtle flare is not chaos, but memory. The fire you see on the surface is only the faraway echo of what is happening miles and miles below. Deep within, gravity squeezes hydrogen so tightly that its atoms merge. When they fuse, they release energy, pure, radiant, unstoppable. This is fusion, the quiet miracle that transforms matter into light. You sense it more than you see it. Each soft collision between hydrogen nuclei is a meeting older than the stars themselves. These nuclei have waited for eons, drifting in cold space, only to find one another again in this impossible heat. And when they finally merge, they create helium, a new, heavier element, a new breath in the life of the cosmos. It is not violent, it is rhythmic. Fusion does not explode, it endures. It sustains the delicate balance between the immense pressure pushing out and the pull of gravity collapsing inward, giving the star its steady, historic glow. The universe calls this balance equilibrium, a fragile, perfect peace between two infinities. The outer layers expand with the heat pressing outward, while gravity presses inward, refusing to let go. The result is serenity, a sphere of light that hums with endless, constant repetition. If you listen very closely, you can almost hear it, the soundless vibration of existence being kept perfectly in tune. This is how the cosmos keeps time. The energy born of fusion travels slowly upward from the core to the surface, passing through layers denser than imagination. Photons born in that bright center take thousands, sometimes millions of years to escape. They scatter, bounce, and wander like lost travelers, moving slowly through a dense fog. By the time they finally reach the surface, they have entirely forgotten where their journey began. And yet, even in their forgetting, they remember. Each photon carries the gentle fingerprint of the star's origin, the mark of fusion. When it finally escapes, racing into the open space, it becomes part of a much older story. That light may one day touch a far-off planet, or an eye, or your hand as you lie here now. You realize how truly ancient the light that surrounds you is. The glow that warms your mind tonight may have begun before your species existed, perhaps even before your planet cooled from molten rock. Each ray is a messenger from a moment too long ago to count, carrying the memory of the star's birth within its brightness. You drift gently inward again, closer to the star's surface. Waves of plasma surge beneath you, moving like tides in slow motion. They twist and shimmer in immense loops, pulled by magnetic fields too vast to measure. You watch great, soft arcs of light rise and fall, painting quiet patterns into the emptiness. They call these flares, immense outbursts of energy flung outward before returning home. It looks like the star is exhaling, releasing tension, sighing its light into space. Even in its fiery heart, it seeks balance, never destruction. Every release is a gesture of calm, not rage. Deeper still, you imagine the core itself. It is small compared to the vast star, yet it holds almost all of its energy. In this blinding chamber, atoms are stripped bare, reduced to their purest essence. Here, fusion reigns steady, patient, eternal. The physics of it are simple, but the poetry is infinite. 4 hydrogen atoms gently merge to become 1 helium atom. A tiny, tiny bit of their mass vanishes, transformed into pure energy, just as it was foretold. It is the most efficient, beautiful act of creation the universe knows matter, remembering how to become light. This is not a single event. It happens constantly, unendingly, every second. Countless fusions occur, releasing gentle floods of energy that sustain the star. Each reaction is a whisper, saying, "I am still here, I am still burning." It is not just survival, it is remembrance. Because the star is not merely alive, it is mindful, not with thought, but with perfect process. Every reaction, every shimmer, is a memory of what began long ago, that first moment when gravity's dream became fire. It repeats the same transformation again and again, keeping the universe softly awake. You feel a sense of kinship with it. You, too, are made of hydrogen turned to helium, of carbon and oxygen that once burned inside stars. Your warmth, your breath, even your heartbeat, all are quiet echoes of fusion. You carry within you the same physics that once illuminated distant galaxies. As you drift gently above its glowing horizon, you notice something deeper beneath its calm rhythm. Fusion consumes its fuel, and though the amount is vast, it is not infinite. The hydrogen will run low someday, and when it does, this perfect balance will falter. The fire will have to find another way to continue, another path to remember its purpose. Helium will slowly take the place of the hydrogen, but it will resist, needing far, far more heat to ignite. The star will grow restless, expanding, cooling on the outside, yet burning fiercer within. It will swell, change color, and breathe out its final warmth into the cosmic sea. But that is still far ahead. For now, The star burns peacefully, lost in its rhythm. It shines not to be seen, but simply because shining is its profound nature. Each pulse of light is a note in an endless song, a melody of perfect equilibrium. You close your eyes and feel the soft glow across your mind. It hums like a lullaby made of physics and poetry. This is the universe, remembering itself, hydrogen dreaming. It is light. And as the warmth softens behind you, you sense the next truth waiting, patient and quiet, beneath the surface. To truly understand the life of a star, you must go deeper into its very center, where gravity and fusion meet in perfect opposition, where light is born, not as brightness, but as balance, where you will find what the universe calls the heart of a star. You drift downward, past the shining surface, through layers of swirling plasma that roll like gentle tides of fire. Each wave hums quietly with energy. And yet, beneath it all, there is a deep peace, a quiet rhythm that feels almost alive. You descend slowly, letting the light grow thicker around you until even your thoughts seem to glow. The deeper you go, the heavier everything becomes, not in weight, but in powerful presence. This is no ordinary descent. You are moving towards the place where energy is truly born. The core of a star is not merely its center, it is its soul. Here, everything the universe understands about creation is written in heat and gravity. As you fall deeper, the temperature rises to millions upon millions of degrees. Atoms no longer behave as they do elsewhere. They move not as individuals, but as soft waves in a shared ocean of unimaginable pressure. Hydrogen merges with hydrogen, forming helium and light, an endless heartbeat pulsing outward through the layers above. You try to imagine the density here. A single spoonful of this matter would outweigh mountains. And yet, it does not crush itself completely. Something delicate holds the chaos apart, the outward push of fusion, balancing gravity's endless pull. It is a stalemate of perfection, a truce written in fire. You pause within that balance, and this silence feels immense. There are no edges, no hard shapes, only the hum of equilibrium. You realize this is where the universe practices its infinite patience. Every reaction, every photon, waits its turn to escape, spending thousands of years wandering outward. If you could slow time enough, you would see the core not as a burning inferno, but as a slow, deliberate breath. Matter flows in, light flows out. Neither wins, neither loses. The heart of a star beats only because it never stops balancing itself. You drift closer still, until you can gently sense the density pressing against you. The particles around you move so fast, they become a blur of pure probability. At these temperatures, hydrogen atoms cannot hold on to their electrons. They become pure plasma, stripped bare. It is the most elemental state of matter, where form yields to essence. Each collision between particles is a conversation, an exchange of energy, a whisper of profound transformation. You feel the rhythm of these collisions, though constant. They create a soft, precise vibration through the stellar core, almost like a musical note. This is fusion's own quiet orchestra, conducted by gravity itself. You begin to understand how the star holds its perfect shape. Gravity presses relentlessly inward, always hungry for collapse, while fusion pushes consistently outward, always generous with its light. The two forces depend completely on each other. Remove one, and the other instantly becomes destruction. This beautiful, fragile balance is what allows light and existence to be. The star does not burn out of anger, nor collapse out of despair. It remains steady because it embodies both restraint and release. You realize that perhaps balance, not raw strength, is what truly keeps the universe alive. In this endless, patient compression, the elements are slowly changing. Hydrogen fuses into helium. Over eons, the helium will slowly transform into heavier elements: carbon, oxygen, even iron. Each new stage requires more heat, more pressure. It is alchemy written in physics, the slow, profound evolution of matter through the language of stars. Every breath you take, every atom in your body, once passed through such a burning heart. Your bones remember this place. And even if you do not consciously recall it, you are born of this very rhythm, a tiny echo of equilibrium between pressure and release. You are, in a quiet and literal sense, stardust that has learned how to rest. You drift alongside the flow of energy pushing outward. Every photon's journey begins right here, born in collisions so fierce that matter trembles. Yet the light moves slowly, trapped in a dense labyrinth of atoms, before it can finally reach the surface. The journey to freedom takes thousands of years, yet it never loses faith in its destination. That patience feels familiar. You too have waited for clarity, for peace, for the right conditions to shine. And now you realize light is not instant, it is persistence in motion. You drift closer to the core, until it becomes hard to tell where matter ends and energy begins. You are surrounded by a brightness so complete that shadow cannot exist. And in that brightness, you sense something deeper still, not just heat, not just gravity, but continuity. The quiet knowledge that every star shares this same deep heart, beating across the vast cosmos in soft synchrony. The energy rising from this core will travel through space, illuminating worlds you may never see. It will warm frozen planets, guide the slow migrations of life, and nurture creation. Each photon will carry the quiet fingerprint of this balance, a silent story of endurance and grace. And eventually, some fragment of that energy may find its way to you, perhaps in a beam of sunlight or the soft glow of a candle. You realize now that what truly holds the universe together isn't dominance or control. It is equilibrium, the steady, endless conversation between giving and receiving. The star does not burn to consume, it burns to share, to give warmth to everything around it until it can no longer give. But one day, that perfect balance will break. The hydrogen will run low, and helium will take its place. Gravity will tighten its grip once more, and the star will resist, swelling, brightening, and profoundly changing form. Its heart will tremble beneath the strain, no longer steady, no longer perfectly calm. You begin to rise gently from the core now, leaving the immense heat behind. Watching the light follow you upward, you understand what waits ahead, a transformation, both grand and deeply tragic. The calm rhythm of fusion will falter, and the star will begin its long, luminous farewell. Its peace will slowly give way to expansion, its steady glow to a red, pulsing breath. As you drift outward through the layers of light, you feel that future already approaching. The star's outer shell trembles with the faintest hint of change. The heart below still burns, but its patience is beginning to wear thin, and somewhere deep within, you sense the first sigh of exhaustion, the quiet aging of a star. You drift once again above the surface of the star you've come to know so intimately. Its glow still warms you, though something feels fundamentally different now, gentler, slower. The light no longer dances with the same fierce energy it once did. It feels older, heavier, as if the star itself has begun to breathe a little more deeply between each pulse. Time in the cosmos doesn't rush. It stretches, quiet and vast. Eons pass like soft heartbeats here, and a star's life, though it may span billions of years, always moves towards stillness. Hydrogen, the simplest and most generous of all elements, has been its faithful fuel, but even the most vast supply can eventually be spent. You sense it first as a subtle, deep change within the core, the rhythm of fusion slowing, the pressure trembling slightly. The hydrogen that once burned so freely begins to fade. The heart of the star contracts, pulling inward, desperate to keep the old balance. Gravity, patient for so long, now tightens its embrace fiercely. As the core shrinks, its temperature rises again, driven by compression. You can almost feel the tension, the painful struggle between pressure and gravity. But the star's outer layers respond differently. They begin to swell outward, expanding far into space. The star's body grows immense, even as its heart shrinks. What was once a bright yellow warmth now glows a deep red and vast. It is not the red of danger, but of maturity, a softer, older light. You float at a distance now, watching it grow until it fills your vision like a slow-moving sunrise that never sets. The star has become a red giant, a luminous elder in the sky. Its surface cools as it expands. Even though the core's heat burns fiercer than ever, you can see great, slow waves rolling across its swollen face, rivers of plasma rising and falling. It shimmers with a calm dignity, no longer the sharp, brilliant flame of youth, but a glowing ember remembering what it once was. There is a gentle melancholy in its beauty, and also a deep peace. You drift closer, moving through its enormous outer atmosphere, where gravity's hold grows weak and thin. Here, the gas is faint and trembling, drifting outward like smoke in slow-motion seas. You can see the traces of light bending through it, creating shimmering waves that fade into the darkness beyond. The star seems to be gently exhaling, letting go of what it can no longer tightly hold. Its color deepens as it ages, moving through soft shades of amber and rose. Each hue is a reminder of what has changed inside: hydrogen fading, helium finally taking its place. The balance that once held steady is now gracefully shifting towards something new. Change, inevitable and unstoppable, has found its way even here. You think of it not as dying, but as transforming. This is how stars prepare for their next chapter, by surrendering what they were to become, something else entirely. The same fire that once defined it is now gently reshaping it. Its story is not ending, it is simply softening. At its core, the rising heat begins to awaken the helium left behind by the fusion of hydrogen. The atoms there begin to stir, colliding in new and far more demanding reactions. It takes immense pressure, greater than ever before, to ignite helium, but the star endures, pushing itself to keep shining a little longer. Helium fusion begins slower, rarer, but still enough to hold back gravity for a time. The star is old now, yet in its heart, creation quietly continues. Carbon and oxygen are born here, the heavy seeds of future worlds. You realize that even in its exhaustion, the star still gives. Its outermost layers, no longer tightly bound by gravity, begin to drift into space like threads of silk. They glow in faint patterns, like breath becoming visible. Some of that gas will one day become part of a new nebula, and perhaps a new star. The universe wastes nothing. Every ending is an offering. The light around you softens. It flickers, not with instability, but with age. as if time itself were woven into its glow. You feel a strange tenderness for this massive being of light. It has burned for ages, given everything, and now at last it learns to rest. The surface ripples in slow motion. Great storms rise and fade, gently carrying fragments of the star into the void. Each wave is a soft farewell. Each flicker, a memory of the core that still burns within. You think of your own heart as you drift nearby, beating, burning, giving energy to the world around you, how it too must one day slow. There is something profoundly comforting in that symmetry, that you and the stars share the same quiet fate, to shine, to fade, and to give your light to something beyond yourself. As you watch, one of the star's outer layers peels away completely, drifting outward in a slow, beautiful spiral. The glow forms delicate patterns, thin rings of gas, fading like smoke in starlight. The star seems lighter now, almost relieved. It has begun the long process of letting go. You turn your gaze back toward the center. The core pulses faintly, a dim heartbeat of what once was. Fusion still continues, but the end is clearly written in its rhythm. You can feel that the next stage will come soon, a shedding of all that remains. You stay a little longer, listening to the quiet hum of this ancient sun. Its warmth feels softer now, like the memory of summer rather than the season itself. You whisper a silent thank you for its patience, its beauty, its gift of light, and as you drift outward, the deep red glow lingers in your eyes. Somewhere ahead, beyond this shimmering expanse of fire, you sense the next transformation, waiting. The star will soon release the last of its outer layers, painting the cosmos with the colors of farewell. And in that release, it will create something breathtaking, a glowing, ethereal shell of light born from the memory of a sun. You drift within gentle reach of the enormous star that once glowed golden and young. Now it has grown vast beyond comprehension, its edges blurred by distance and deep heat. You can feel its powerful presence before you even see it, an immense ocean of warmth stretching across space, moving slowly, like breath. The red giant fills the void, not as a sharp, fierce light, but as a soft, immense pulse, expanding, contracting, exhaling. The surface ripples beneath you, vast enough to engulf entire worlds. What was once tight and bright has loosened, swollen outward in quiet exhaustion. The outer layers no longer cling tightly to the core, but drift in lazy, undulating waves of gas and plasma. It feels like standing beside something ancient that has finally learned how to rest. You can sense the profound change deep inside. The hydrogen is gone. The great engine that once burned with steady confidence has emptied its primary fuel tank. The star's heart, now composed mostly of helium, shrinks under the relentless, unforgiving pull of gravity. It grows hotter, denser, a small, fierce sun within a sun, burning quietly in defiance of its own fate. But that heat has nowhere to go. It radiates slowly outward through the layers of expanding gas, puffing the star's surface outward like the slow, deep breath of sleep. Each expansion releases more energy, making the star swell even larger. You watch as it grows, hundreds of times its former size, reaching across the void with its trembling, immense light. The red glow feels softer than the white-hot blaze of its youth. It is the kind of warmth that hums rather than burns, gentle, aged, forgiving. If light had an emotion, this would be profound nostalgia. You feel it brush against you like a memory, an echo of what it once was, still radiant, but deeply tired. Beneath the calm, swollen surface, a different kind of movement reigns. Convection currents surge slowly upward, carrying heat from the shrinking core to the outer layers. The movement is slow, but immensely powerful, creating loops of glowing matter that rise and sink again like profound tides of flame. From a distance, it looks serene. Up close, it feels alive, restless. You drift near one of these slow waves and watch it unfold. It moves in beautiful slow motion, a vast plume of gas stretching thousands of kilometers into the void. As it cools, it drifts gently away from the star, losing brightness but not its quiet, aged beauty. The dying sun exhales, and with each deep breath, a little more of itself escapes. Gravity still tries to hold it all together, but the star's holding strength is fading. The outer layers are too far, too light, too free. They slip away like silk through open fingers, scattering into the surrounding darkness. What remains is the heart, smaller, brighter, and fiercely alive. Helium begins to fuse at last, the next brief chapter of its burning life. This reaction demands far greater heat than hydrogen fusion, but the star manages it, if only for a little while. Within that furious, contracting core, new elements are born. Carbon, oxygen, the very ingredients of life. Even in its final, massive moments, the star quietly continues to create. You imagine those newborn atoms drifting outward someday, crossing into interstellar space, falling into new clouds. Perhaps one will settle into a planet's ocean. Perhaps one will become part of a breathing creature, a heartbeat, a thought. You realize the red giant isn't dying, it is profoundly giving. You look across its glowing horizon where light rolls like fog on a golden sea. Each pulse of radiation sends another breath into space. Stellar winds gently tear through the star's expanding envelope, carrying fine dust and molecules with them. It is a wind of creation, soft but unstoppable. The further the material drifts, the cooler it becomes. Carbon dust forms tiny grains of cosmic ash that shimmer in the immense starlight. These grains will one day form new systems, the bones of future stars, the minerals of new worlds. This is how the cosmos recycles itself, through the quiet generosity of endings. You realize that what looks like loss is actually release. The star is not falling apart in despair, but gently unfolding in acceptance. It is returning its borrowed energy to the universe, atom by atom, breath by breath. You can almost hear its sigh, a soundless letting go, an exhalation older than time itself. You drift farther out, and its immense, terrifying scale becomes clear. If this red giant replaced your own sun, its edge would swallow Earth, perhaps even Mars. The planets that once circled safely around it are now gone, vaporized, absorbed, or cast adrift. It is a potent reminder that nothing in the universe stays still. Still, despite the enormity of its change, the star remains profoundly beautiful. Its light flickers through veils of escaping dust like candlelight through silk. The edges shimmer, fading softly into the void, neither truly alive nor fully gone. The air of finality feels gentle, not tragic. As you watch, a new pulse ripples across its surface, a slow wave of gas expanding outward like a vast heartbeat. Each one carries more of the star into the universe, a silent farewell, repeated in perfect rhythm. You can see how layer by layer, it is weaving its own shroud of light. A faint nebula is quietly forming, not yet fully visible, but promised in the air. The star's breathing slows. What began as internal expansion is now an external release. The outer layers drift farther and farther until gravity's final pull can no longer call them home. Soon, all that will remain is the luminous core, stripped bare but still glowing. You linger for a while, letting the last warmth reach you. The deep red hue slowly fades to rose, then to soft gold, then to a faint, ethereal white. In the distance, the expelled gases begin to shimmer, spreading wide like watercolor dissolving in the dark. You realize you are witnessing beauty's final act, the transformation of pure fire into pure color. The red giant exhales one final time, and this immense breath does not return. The outermost layers fall away completely, drifting free into the void. A glowing shell of gas remains delicate and round, floating where the massive star once stood whole. Its colors will soon bloom into one of the universe's quietest wonders, a planetary nebula. And as the last breath leaves its surface, you hear it, not with your ears, but with your mind. A hush, a peace, a silence that feels like profound completion. The giant's work is done. And from its soft release, something new is about to be born. The next time you open your eyes, you are drifting through its ghost, the immense shell of light it left behind, the beautiful memory of a star. You awaken into color. Soft ribbons of light drift all around you, glowing in hues of rose, blue, and violet. The red giant is gone, yet its memory fills the sky. Before you floats a vast, shimmering sphere, the luminous shell of light it left behind. You drift closer, weightless, surrounded by luminous clouds that seem to gently breathe. They twist and curl, drifting slowly outward, fading as they expand. Each wisp is made of the very atoms the star once held tightly. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, all drifting free, all shining for one final, spectacular moment before vanishing into the night. The glow you see is not fire, but remembrance. It comes from intense ultraviolet light pouring out of the hot core that remains a tiny, white-hot ember, small but fiercely bright. That pure energy touches the escaping gases and makes them shine like fragile lanterns suspended in nothingness. For a brief, cosmic time, the star's farewell becomes one of the most beautiful sights in the universe. You pass through the edge of the nebula and feel its profound stillness. The light does not push or pull, it simply exists. The gas moves slowly, stretching into long, glowing filaments that seem to paint time itself. It feels like drifting through the after-image of creation. You realize that each color tells a story. The rich reds are hydrogen whispering its last warmth. The soft greens are oxygen glowing in rare solitude. And the blues, those deep, dreamy blues, belong to helium, the star's ancient companion, now free at last. From this distance, the nebula looks alive, like a luminous, living veil, suspended between existence and memory. Its light pulses faintly, echoing the faraway heartbeat of the core that once burned within. You reach out, and the brightness hums softly through you, neither hot nor cold, only eternal. The universe is quiet here, quiet, but not empty. If you listen carefully, it feels as if the star is still speaking, not in words, but in immense waves of light messages written in color and slow motion. Nothing truly ends, it seems to say. Everything becomes something else. You float deeper inside, through soft folds of pink and silver. The patterns shift and blur like ink dissolving slowly in water. Each turn reveals another shape: rings, arcs, gentle swirls, the beautiful traces of the star's final breath. It is art made of pure physics, a painting painted by light itself. The gases continue to move outward, slower now, fainter with each passing century. They will stretch farther until they disappear entirely into interstellar space, mixing with other clouds, waiting for new stars to form. Someday, the atoms glowing around you now might become part of something else, a new sun, a new planet, perhaps even you. The cycle continues, patient and infinite. And there, at the quiet center of all this beauty, you see it, the white dwarf, tiny compared to what it once was, yet impossibly dense. It shines like a small, perfect pearl in the middle of all the color, a relic of pure heat and gravity. It no longer burns with fusion, but it glows from memory, holding on to the last warmth of its youth. You drift near it, feeling its profound power. A teaspoon of its matter would weigh as much as a mountain, yet it floats gently in space. It is what remains when fusion has ended, when energy has been spent, when time has taken almost everything, and still it shines. There is something heartbreakingly persistent about it. All its layers are gone, all its brilliance released, and yet it refuses to disappear. It radiates a calm persistence, the quiet strength of endurance. You find comfort in that stillness, as if it understands something about letting go that you do not. You look back toward the nebula now, its colors spreading across the immense void. It looks fragile, almost transparent, and yet it fills everything. Every delicate line of it, every soft curl of light, is made of atoms that once burned inside the heart of a living star. It is death transformed into a silent masterpiece. And as you drift through the colors, you can't help but feel grateful that the universe doesn't erase what it finishes. It repurposes, it repaints. It takes endings and turns them into light. Perhaps in your own quiet way, you do too. You linger a little longer in this celestial artwork, letting the glow fade softly around you. The white dwarf's light pulses faintly in the distance, fading just enough to remind you how fragile existence can be. And you wonder what will happen to it when even this final glow begins to cool. When time moves forward and warmth turns to silence once again, before we drift onward, take a moment to notice how you feel. Are you still awake, floating quietly among the remnants of a fading star? If you are, leave a comment saying, "Still drifting. I'd love to know who's journeying through the stars with me tonight." And if your eyes are still open, stay with me till the end of this story. The colors gently fade behind you as you drift away from the beautiful nebula. What was once a bright, breathing shell of gas now dissolves slowly into space, leaving behind only a single, unwavering point of light. You move closer, and it brightens softly, a tiny radiant sphere suspended in the velvet blackness. This is the white dwarf, the final, stubborn heartbeat of a star that simply refused to vanish. Up close, it looks almost tranquil, glowing with the purity of absolute stillness. No fire rages within it now, no fusion burns at its core, and yet it shines, not from creation, but from memory. You realize this light is not being made, it is being remembered. The star glows because it still holds the warmth of everything it once was. Every atom is crowded together in an impossible embrace, the core compressed into something so dense that matter itself has fundamentally changed. A single teaspoon of it would outweigh entire mountains. You hover near its surface, and even from this distance, you can feel the weight, not in gravity's immediate pull, but in the silence. This silence feels heavier than noise, thicker than time. It is the quiet of something that has finished its immense work and now simply exists. The star has no flame left, no fuel, no ongoing fusion. Its light is the soft afterglow heat slowly leaking into the dark, atom by atom, moment by moment. Each second that passes is a fading echo of billions of years of creation. You could call it dying, but that would miss the deeper truth, because what you're witnessing isn't decay, it is profound endurance. This small, white ember is the physical memory of everything the universe has done to stay alive. It holds the shape of gravity's immense patience, the rhythm of fusion song, and the warmth of countless atomic births. If you listen closely, and not with your ears, but with deep attention, you can almost hear it hum a low, constant vibration, so faint it's nearly silence. That hum is the sound of temperature falling through eternity, the star cooling but never quite cold. You drift closer still, watching its faint light ripple across your vision. It is so small, barely the size of Earth, yet its mass equals that of the Sunday. The atoms inside are crushed into a rigid, crystalline lattice, a strange state of matter held together by pure pressure. Electrons are locked tightly in place, unable to move freely, keeping gravity's collapse at bay. This is what physics calls degeneracy pressure. It is not fire or magnetism, not heat or motion. It is simply resistance, the stubbornness of matter, refusing to be crushed beyond existence. Even at the end, the universe finds ways to say, "Not yet." You watch faint, subtle flashes flicker across its surface, remnants of the past, magnetic storms still spiraling faintly in its fading atmosphere. They light up the silence for a heartbeat, then gently vanish again. It's as if the star occasionally remembers what it used to be and sighs. That sigh travels outward as light, reaching through space like a final whisper to everything it once touched. Its brilliance is fading, but gently. There is no collapse here, no violence, no explosion, only the long, slow cooling of something that once burned with the force of creation itself. It is peace written in physics. Billions of years will pass, and the white dwarf will continue to glow, a little dimmer each millennium, a little cooler each eon. Eventually, it will lose all its warmth and fade into a black dwarf, a star no longer visible, its heat completely gone. But that time lies so far in the future that even galaxies may change their shapes before it happens. So for now, it shines small, silent, and steadfast. You can almost see the memory of its past floating around it, faint traces of gas and dust still illuminated by its quiet glow. The nebula it once made is fading, but its colors linger like the beautiful ghosts of a dream. You feel as though you're drifting through history itself, a place where time has slowed to contemplation. The white dwarf does not move quickly, it simply endures. You think of endurance in your own life, the way small lights continue to glow long after the main fire fades, a candle after the flame is extinguished, a memory that warms you even when the person is no longer near. The star feels like that, an echo that refuses to be forgotten. It has nothing left to prove, and so it simply is. You hover above it for a while longer, letting its dim radiance wash over you. It's beautiful, in a quiet, humbling way. Not a beauty of brightness, but of profound resilience. No longer trying to outshine, only to remain. And somehow, that seems more powerful than all the explosions in the universe. The darkness around it feels deeper now, more complete. You begin to sense the slow march of time continuing the cooling, the fading, the patient slide toward quiet. But even as the star dims, its atoms still remember how to glow. Memory itself has become its last form of light. You take one final look before drifting farther into space. The white dwarf glows faintly behind you, a single, perfect pearl in the endless ocean of night. It will outlive everything you know, every planet, every star in your current sky. It will linger long after memory itself fades. And yet, even this stillness is not the end, for time will keep moving, and even the most patient light will one day grow weary. Far beyond imagining, there will come a moment when warmth itself disappears, when even endurance gives way to final silence, a future where the last remaining stars lose their glow and eternity begins to cool. But for now, in this moment, a tiny star still shines, and it reminds you that even at the edge of forever, there is still light. In the next part of our journey, you will drift forward through time itself to witness what happens when that light finally fades, when heat gives way to stillness and eternity becomes cold. A slow journey into the final cooling of existence. You drift through time now, not space. A billion years pass like a slow breath, then another. The colorful nebula that once surrounded the white dwarf has long since vanished, absorbed into the cosmic mist. And yet, there it remains, a tiny, unwavering pearl of light in the black sea of forever. Its glow is softer now. What was once white and pure has dimmed to a faint, pale blue, then to an ethereal gray. The warmth that once touched everything nearby has cooled, spreading thinly, sparsely into space. You can sense it slowing, not dying, but resting deeper. There is no violence here, no explosion, no sound. The white dwarf's cooling is the gentlest ending in the universe. It loses energy atom by atom, photon by photon. Even as it fades, it keeps its dignity, a quiet persistence against the dark. You come closer, and the light greets you weakly, like an old friend half asleep. It flickers faintly, but without struggle. Its glow reduced to memory, its fire to a faint warmth. You can almost imagine it sighing. It has done all it could, and now it simply waits. The surface is smooth now, crystalline in texture. Under that hardened crust, the ions barely move, the vibrant dance of atoms slowed to a near standstill. What remains is structure without energy, form without motion, and yet you can feel something sacred about it. You realize that even stillness has a profound purpose. The star does not vanish because its light is gone. It remains as matter, as memory, as proof that existence once burned here. Even silence leaves an echo. Around you, the universe has changed too. The galaxies that once crowded the sky have drifted farther apart, their light stretched thin into long, invisible waves. Stars are rarer now, each one a flickering ember in the cooling dark. The universe itself is growing old. But as you float through this frozen vastness, you find a deep peace in it. Not everything ends with noise. Some endings come as whispers, quiet, slow, complete. This star's glow fades not in tragedy, but in acceptance. You imagine what it once was, the roaring giant, the brilliant red sun, the dazzling nebula. All that brightness condensed now into this small sphere, colder than ice, heavier than imagination. And you see how everything in the universe, even light, eventually learns to rest. There is profound beauty in that surrender. You press closer, almost touching its surface. The temperature here has dropped to nearly absolute zero. No more fusion, no more heat, just frozen atoms waiting for nothing at all. Yet, somehow, you still feel warmth. Not physical, but emotional. You realize it's your memory providing it. Your mind remembering the heat that once was, the light that once filled the nebula, the fire that once sang at the heart of creation. You carry its warmth for it. Now, As the universe grows cold, it has given all it had, and now it lives on through remembrance. You drift backward, letting the stillness unfold around you. From this distance, the white dwarf no longer even looks like a star, just a faint dot among countless others, each telling the same quiet story. Every one of them was once alive, once burning, once seen. Now they are the soft punctuation marks of eternity. This tiny, dense sphere shines not from creation, but from memory. It glows because it still holds the warmth of everything it once was. Every atom is impossibly crowded together, compressed into something so dense that a teaspoon of it would outweigh entire mountains. Yet, it does not collapse completely. This is the stubbornness of matter, what physicists call degeneracy pressure, refusing to be crushed beyond existence. The white dwarf has no flame left, no fuel, no fusion. Its light is the soft afterglow heat, slowly leaking into the dark. Each second that passes is a fading echo of billions of years of creation. This is not decay, it is profound endurance. Billions of years will pass, and the white dwarf will continue to dim, a little cooler each eon. Eventually, it will lose all its warmth and fade into a black dwarf, a star so cold it can no longer be seen. But that time lies so far in the future that its patience outlasts everything. This is the slow cooling of eternity, a gentle glide into peace. The star has fulfilled its promise, completing the story that began as a spark. You realize that endings are never truly endings. They are just slower, more patient beginnings. Far ahead, something faint catches your attention, another light, distant, but slowly growing. A reminder that even in the quietest corners of time, new stars can still be born. You turn toward it, your path illuminated by the faintest echoes of ancient light. You drift now toward a different kind of star, one far larger, more powerful, and more restless than the quiet sun you just left behind. It blazes in golden blue, a giant whose light burns with urgency. Massive stars live fast. They burn through their lives in only a few million years. Their cores roar with fusion, creating increasingly heavier elements. But at the center, iron begins to form the final element a star can make through burning. Iron traps energy, and when the core fills with it, the perfect balance is lost. Gravity, which had long been a partner, now becomes a conqueror. The outward pressure of fusion falters, and the immense weight of the star itself crushes inward. It happens faster than thought. A collapse so complete that the core implodes within seconds. You feel the absolute silence just before the explosion. Then, the star dies in a single, blinding instant. The collapse rebounds, sending shockwaves outward. The explosion is called a supernova. And for a brief, astonishing moment, one star outshines all others combined. The shockwave throws matter violently into space. Elements heavier than iron are born here, forged in the intense crucible of catastrophe. Gold, uranium, the beautiful minerals of planets and mines. In this destruction, life is being made again. You realize, without supernovae, there would be no Earth, no oceans, no you. The light spreads across the void, washing over distant worlds. Chunks of the old star spin off into space, carrying carbon and iron and gold. This debris will one day form worlds. Behind it all, something strange remains. At the very center, the core has compressed so tightly that ordinary matter can no longer exist. It has become a neutron star, small, dense, and unimaginably heavy. It spins rapidly, beaming radiation into space like a cosmic lighthouse, a pulsar. Each pulse is a whisper of what came before, a rhythm that keeps time long after death. You think of the white dwarf you left behind, quiet and fading. Here is the opposite, a death so bright it redefines light itself. Both are endings, but each tells a different story of endurance. You float among the expanding debris of a dying giant. This is a supernova in full dramatic bloom, the brightest death in the universe. Its light floods everything, turning the darkness to silk and the silence to music. As you drift through the expanding gas, the colors change from fierce blue to soft gold, from white fire to crimson mist. Atoms that once lay locked in the heart of the star now roam freely through space. You breathe slowly, realizing that your body, too, was once made from such light. You reach out toward a drifting particle, knowing it might someday join a cloud of gas, collapse again, and ignite into another star. You glance back toward the center where the brightness once blinded you. The energy has moved outward, the core is gone, and within that absence, gravity begins to rise again. The remnants collapse inward under their own impossible weight. The neutron star grows denser, spinning faster, bending time around itself. The collapse continues, deeper, tighter, until even light begins to hesitate. The star's final form is beginning to awaken, a presence so intense that not even photons can flee. The universe's strangest secret, the birth of a black hole. You can almost see the fabric of space-time, stretching, warping, folding in on itself. The star's death is no longer an end, but a door. If you're still awake, still here among the drifting ashes of stars, thank you for journeying this far. If this moment of calm among the cosmos has moved you, give this video a gentle like and subscribe. It helps this quiet corner of the universe reach other dreamers drifting with us tonight. You drift through the fading afterglow of the supernova, surrounded by light that has traveled farther than imagination. The explosion is over, but its light continues to wander. The remnants are spreading across the darkness, a nebula forming from dust and color. Bright filaments of gas thread through the void, stretching outward like nerves through a cosmic mind. You look around and see the transformation. The star's death is not its absence, it's its expansion into everything else. And within the center of this bloom of light, the echo grows stranger. The pulsar's rhythmic, steady beat radiates from deep within. It ticks like a celestial metronome, keeping time for a universe that never sleeps. You feel its pulse travel through you, gentle, hypnotic, eternal. You realize the universe does not mourn its dead, it illuminates them. The echo continues, softer now, slower, until it feels like part of your own pulse. Beyond this nebula, far in the distance, another story is forming, one of creation born from chaos. The elements forged here are beginning to settle, to mix, to combine into something miraculous. You drift through the fading cloud of the supernova. This is no ordinary dust. Every grain, every particle glimmering around you is newly born. Forged not by time, but by intensity. You reach out and drift through a streak of glowing gold. It glints softly, drifting weightless through space. Around you, more forms take shape. Tiny atoms of calcium, iron, nickel, silver. These are the elements that will someday form everything solid, everything living. All across the universe, there are events that happened long ago, but are still on their way somewhere, quietly shaping the background. A star explodes, a galaxy flares, A radio song is broadcast into the night, and long after the moment is over, the ripples keep traveling as light, particles, and waves in space-time. Folded into that outward drift is you, the warmth of your body, the faint electric fields around your nerves, the signals from your devices. None of it reaches very far compared to the size of the cosmos, but it exists. What's remarkable is that none of those echoes are coordinated. There is no editor choosing what to keep, no archive sorting them. The structure of space itself holds them. The fields that fill the vacuum, the curvature of space-time, the quantum states, humming underneath it all, they respond. Each time something happens, they adapt, even if only by a tiny amount. They change, and in that change, a memory is written. Seen this way, memory no longer needs a brain. It only needs a medium that can be altered and doesn't instantly reset. Space is such a medium. The vacuum is alive with fields and fluctuations, and those fields keep a record simply by not going back to exactly the way they were. So if echoes are always moving forward, light that hasn't been absorbed yet, particles still in flight, waves still unfolding, loss becomes harder to define. When we say we forget, we usually mean that we can't retrieve a pattern inside our own mind. A face, a voice, a detail slips beyond reach. But if the universe keeps carrying forward the physical consequences of every moment, if the evidence continues spreading in thin rings of influence, is that the same as true erasure? Or is silence just a depth we haven't learned to listen into yet? You don't have to answer that tonight. The questions can simply sit with you, the way uncountable particles sit with you, passing through your room, your body, your bed, without asking permission. They share the space with the faint warmth you feel without thinking, warmed slightly by background radiation that has been traveling since the early universe, and with the gentle curve of gravity wrapping around your body, holding you to the earth. So when you look up at a dark sky, it may help to retire the word blank. Instead, you can think of it as layered, full of quiet evidence. And if most of space is like that, if nearly everything can carry some trace of what has happened, then there is one kind of place that seems, at first glance, to break the pattern. Black holes. You've probably heard the outline. Take something massive, let gravity win, and it collapses inward under its own weight. The matter falls into a region where space-time curves so sharply that light cannot find a way back out. The result is not an explosion, not a hole in the usual sense, but a patch of space where the slope becomes impossibly steep. Anything that strays too close, light, gas, dust, entire stars, crosses a certain boundary and can no longer escape. That boundary is the event horizon. From the outside, it's like a one-way surface. Once something passes through, there are no paths that lead back to you. In this sense, a black hole isn't a cosmic vacuum cleaner tugging from a distance. It just sits, shaping the geometry, waiting for something to wander across its edge. All of that is well supported by theory, and by what we've seen: stars whipping around invisible centers, gas heating up as it spirals inward, the faint ringing of gravitational waves when black holes merge. But behind this picture is a quieter question. It isn't just, what is a black hole? It's, what does a black hole do to information? Imagine throwing something in: a photograph, a cup of tea, a small satellite, a single photon. From far away, once it slips past the event horizon, it's gone. You can't recover it or decode it. All you ever see is the black hole's mass increasing. Maybe its spin changing, maybe its electric charge shifting. The intricate details, the image on the photograph, The arrangement of atoms in the cup seemed to vanish. Everywhere else in physics, information is not supposed to be destroyed. It can be scrambled and hidden, but in principle, if you knew every detail of a system, you could run the clock backward and reconstruct what it was. Quantum mechanics is built on the idea that the evolution of a system preserves information, even if we don't know how to read it. Black holes appear to ignore that rule. Drop a poem and a plain rock into the same black hole, and from the outside their fates look identical. The meaning of the poem and the plainness of the rock both disappear into the same dark. Physicists call this the information paradox. It's not about whether black holes are real, they are. It's about whether they break the deep principle that information written into the universe never completely vanishes. Then Stephen Hawking made it sharper. By blending quantum physics with curved space-time, he showed that black holes are not perfectly black. They emit a faint glow, Hawking radiation arising from quantum fluctuations near the event horizon, where pairs of particles appear and one escapes. The escaping particle carries away a little energy, which means the black hole slowly loses mass. Over enormous spans of time, this trickle could cause it to evaporate completely. And if it does, the problem deepens. Everything that fell in the poem, the rock, the cup of tea, seems to be replaced by a featureless bath of radiation. No pattern, no way to reconstruct what was lost. If that's truly how it works, something in our understanding has to give. Either quantum mechanics is incomplete about how strictly information is preserved, or our picture of black holes is missing a hidden layer. To soften the paradox, people began to explore different possibilities. One suggestion is that the information remains inside, somehow stored in whatever quantum object replaces the singularity at the center. Another is that Hawking radiation is not as bland as it looks, that, in principle, the information does seep out encoded in subtle correlations between the emitted particles, so tangled that we don't yet know how to untie them. A third idea focuses on the horizon itself. Instead of thinking of the event horizon as just a geometric boundary, you can imagine it as a kind of memory surface. Everything that falls in leaves an imprint on the horizon's microscopic structure. From far away, you only see the black hole swell and perhaps spin differently. But at the quantum level, the edge may be covered in an intricate pattern that quietly records what crossed it. This way of thinking led to something larger, the holographic principle. In everyday life, a hologram is a flat surface that stores a three-dimensional image. Shine light on it the right way, and depth appears from a thin sheet. The holographic principle takes that idea and suggests that everything inside a region of space, all the particles, fields, and interactions, could be fully described by information stored on the boundary around it. Black holes nudged physicists toward this, because when they tried to calculate how much information a black hole could contain, they found that the limit didn't grow with the black hole's volume. It grew with the area of its event horizon. The maximum information content seemed to depend on surface area, not interior size. That's as if the capacity of a room to hold details was determined not by how much space is inside it, but by the size of its walls. So people began to ask, what if this area rule is not just a black hole curiosity, but a clue about space-time itself? In certain models, you can take a universe with gravity inside it and show that it is mathematically equivalent to a universe without gravity living on a lower dimensional boundary. Every event in the bulk has a partner on the edge. The two descriptions look very different, but they tell the same story. That doesn't mean you're a projection in a science fiction sense. It means there may be two complete ways to talk about the same reality. One in terms of volumes and geometry, another in terms of surfaces and information. In that view, a black hole's event horizon becomes a kind of ultimate ledger. What falls in does not vanish. It is encoded there, flattened into a pattern of quantum ripples along the horizon. We don't yet know which detailed picture of black holes is exactly right, but a theme has begun to emerge. Even in the most extreme conditions we can imagine, the universe seems stubborn about keeping its records. It may hide them behind horizons, weave them into subtle correlations, or press them into surfaces we don't know how to read. But simple erasure is the last thing it seems willing to allow. That matters because the universe is built on change. Stars collapse, planets form, particles scatter and fuse and decay. Nothing keeps its original shape forever. And yet all of these transformations follow rules. If information could truly disappear, if something could happen and leave no trace anywhere, then the chain between cause and effect would break. The structure of physics itself would begin to unravel. So far, that hasn't happened. Even black holes still obey equations that fit together. They still leave clues in their gravity, their radiation, their edges, quietly. They suggest that what we think of as forgetting may often be something else, a kind of compression so deep and thorough that it looks like absence from where we stand. If information is always preserved, and if the capacity to store it depends on boundaries, then information begins to look less like a convenience and more like a foundation. In that view, the universe is made of information first. Matter and energy are ways that information arranges itself. Laws of physics are patterns in how information changes, how it's shuffled and shared while never quite being lost. If that's even partly true, memory stops being something that belongs only to brains. Memory becomes something space does when it is bent and doesn't unbend, something fields do when they shift and keep the new shape, something reality does by its very nature, because every change has to come from somewhere and lead to something else. You don't need the equations to feel the softness of that idea. Every time you move through a room, you leave a physical trace in the invisible structures around you. Slight changes in electromagnetic fields, tiny adjustments in gravitational curvature, new paths for light to take. The information written into the world shifts because you are in it, because you turned your head, because you breathed. You are not outside the universe's memory, watching it from a distance. You are one of the ways it writes. A story of how darkness leaks light, how even gravity loses its hold in the end. A quiet exploration of the universe's most patient truth, Hawking's whisper. You hover at the boundary where everything changes. Before you lies the event horizon, the threshold of no return, the black hole's final veil. It does not glow or shimmer, does not roar. It simply waits. The space around you bends like liquid glass. Distant stars warp and twist, their light stretched into glowing arcs that spiral into infinity. You're looking at a moment stretched beyond comprehension, where time slows to an impossible crawl. You drift closer, and light itself begins to behave strangely. Photons near you hover, trembling at the edge, unable to decide whether to escape or surrender. Some spiral endlessly, trapped in orbits of light. Others flicker outward, breaking free, carrying the story of this place into the cosmos. If you could see time here, it would look like ripples in honey, viscous, slow, distorted. And yet there is a strange calm. No sound, no wind, only a hum that feels less like noise and more like pressure. You can sense the weight of space-time itself, folding and refolding around you. It's not frightening, it's sacred. You begin to understand why physicists call this the point of no return, not because it forbids movement, but because it redefines it. Inside the event horizon, all directions lead inward, not through space, but through time itself. To fall in is to move forward, to progress, to continue. The event horizon is not a wall. It is a silence so complete that even mathematics struggles to describe it. And yet, it still speaks. The black hole, silently, humbly, leaking faint energy from its edge. Hawking radiation, born from the tiniest of quantum fluctuations. Particles form from nothing, pairs of opposites dancing at the edge of everything. One falls in, the other escapes, carrying away a whisper of the black hole's life. You realize that even here at the threshold of oblivion, creation continues. The universe refuses to stop giving birth to light. Even in darkness, each escaped particle is a fragment of hope, a reminder that nothing, not even gravity, can hold everything forever. The event horizon, then, is not an ending. It is a transformation. You drift along the curve, watching the light swirl around the black hole like water down a drain. You begin to feel that you are not outside looking in, but part of the edge itself. For a moment, you imagine the other side. What if everything that falls in is rewritten, reborn, reinterpreted somewhere else? The horizon hums gently beneath you, patient and eternal. Even as it consumes, it glows faintly with the light of all it has touched. You realize it is not death you are seeing, but remembrance. You close your eyes. Maybe deep below, the singularity waits, and somewhere above, new galaxies are being born. You drift beyond the edge where light itself once hesitated. The horizon fades behind you, leaving no trace of boundary or border. You have entered the singularity, not a place but a condition where gravity is no longer a force but a law rewritten. Every atom, every photon, every idea of where collapses into one dimensionless point. You feel motion though there is nowhere to go. You feel falling though there is no down. The sense of yourself stretches. Time here does not move forward. It circles, loops, whispers. In this silence, you begin to understand something profound. A singularity is not the absence of everything. It is the compression of everything. All that the star once was, its light, its heat, its atoms, are here, pressed into a place so small that place no longer applies. You are floating in pure potential. The physics you once trusted breaks apart here, quietly. Equations unravel, laws blur. It's not chaos, it's order that has folded itself beyond recognition. You sense something immense beneath the stillness, not destruction, but continuity. What falls here does not end. It transforms into a kind of information. Matter becomes geometry. Time becomes texture. The singularity is the universe's act of remembering itself in a new language. You drift closer, and it feels like you are entering a thought, the universe's private reflection on existence. A place where creation and destruction are indistinguishable. Some theories suggest that every singularity might be the seed of something else. A tunnel, perhaps, into another universe. Maybe what dies here is reborn elsewhere, unseen. Maybe this is how eternity keeps growing. You close your eyes and images begin to form, not from sight, but from memory, carried in energy itself. You see the star that once was, its brilliant heart, its long red sigh. The black hole is not a grave. It is an archive, a place where the universe keeps its most sacred stories, too dense to tell in light. And then you feel it, a gentle push, subtle but certain. The same force that once pulled everything in now begins to release. The equations, if they could still exist here, would call this symmetry. What enters must someday emerge. You open your eyes, and for the first time, you see a flicker of light ahead. Not the light of a sun or a star, but something subtler, a possibility forming. The singularity's secret is not destruction, it is passage. You turn toward that faint shimmer, your awareness expanding with it. It feels like rising from deep water into dawn. Somewhere above this infinite density, gravity is loosening its grip. Matter is becoming light again, and space is beginning to stretch. A new world, perhaps, is about to be born. You emerge from the singularity's silence into a dim, steady glow. For a moment, it feels like waking from a dream that never ended. Before you, dust and gas spiral endlessly, tracing soft rings of light around the black hole's invisible heart. This is the accretion disk, a cosmic whirlpool of matter caught between freedom and surrender. It moves faster than any planet, and yet, from this distance, it feels slow, like the turning of an ancient clock. You drift beside it, feeling the warmth of friction shimmering through the gas. The particles rub together as they spiral inward, heating until they glow. What you see is not light from the black hole itself. It is the light of resistance, the universe shining brightest where it struggles to let go. The disk isn't uniform. Some regions burn blue where the heat is highest. Others fade into crimson where cooling begins. It's like watching a galaxy condensed into a single eternal motion. Every orbit is a lifetime, and every glow a farewell. You think of the particles circling here, trapped in perpetual hesitation. They are neither free nor captured. They remain balanced on the knife edge between falling and staying. It feels strangely human, that state of almost surrender, almost peace. You realize that this orbit, this fragile ring of light, is what makes black holes visible at all. Without it, they would be perfect absences, invisible wounds in space-time. It is the surrounding light that defines the darkness. You look outward now, beyond the disk. Stars shine faintly, warped by gravity's lensing. Their images bend into arcs and halos, forming what astronomers call the Einstein ring. Even in distortion, there is beauty. Even in bending, a kind of grace. The question lingers soft and unhurried. Which feels more peaceful, to circle forever or to surrender completely? You sense that the farther you move, the quieter it becomes. The last waves of energy are escaping now, faint, fading, final. You glance once more toward the black hole, now a quiet center surrounded by its glowing crown. Even nothingness, it seems, finds a way to shine. And just beyond this halo of light, you sense the beginning of something else. Faint ripples moving outward through the fabric of space. They are not light nor sound, but gravity itself traveling as a wave. You follow that tremor through the dark. Each pulse stretches time, bends distance, carries the memory of what once fell. The universe is speaking again, not in light this time, but in gravity's slow, wordless voice. You drift away from the orbiting light of the black hole into the deep stillness that follows its feeding. Then, almost imperceptibly, you feel it. A pulse faint, but certain, moving not through space, but of it. The ripple is invisible, yet it touches everything. It passes through you, through stars, through entire galaxies, bending them gently and then letting go. This is a gravitational wave. The the trembling of space-time itself, a soundless whisper that began when two massive objects collided in unimaginable silence. You try to listen. There is no noise, yet you sense rhythm, like the slow beating of a heart too vast to perceive all at once. Each wave stretches the fabric of reality ever so slightly, then lets it relax again. The universe is breathing softly, endlessly. You imagine what caused this wave. Two black holes locked in orbit, spiraling inward over eons, each second amplifying their pull until at last they collided, merging into one, sending ripples outward in every direction. You are riding one now. It expands through the cosmos like a note struck on the deepest instrument ever made. Its message is simple: we were here. You feel it hum through your chest, through your bones, through the atoms that once belonged to stars. The wave travels forever, never tiring, never fading entirely. Even as it stretches across billions of light years, its rhythm remains intact. It doesn't destroy, it records. Each ripple carries a memory, a fingerprint of the event that created it. The universe is always moving, even when it seems to rest. Far ahead, a faint shimmer marks another passing wave. These are the echoes of countless collisions. Neutron stars meeting, black holes embracing. Each sends a ripple outward, distorting time and distance, weaving reality's quiet fabric. You're floating in the soundless music of space-time. It humbles you, knowing that even death can create something that travels forever. A black hole's final union becomes not darkness, but a message of movement. Energy always finds another form. Even gravity, silent and invisible, learns to sing. You stretch your hand, or perhaps your thought, into the ripple. It passes through without resistance, yet leaves behind a faint warmth, as though the universe just brushed against you. The sensation is ancient, intimate, endless. You wonder if every ripple changes you just slightly, if the atoms in your body vibrate a little differently each time one passes through. Maybe the whole universe is tuning itself, wave by wave, to stay in harmony with its own memory. Maybe even you are part of that instrument. You float with the wave for what feels like centuries. Its amplitude fades gradually, but its presence never disappears completely. Even the smallest remnant of a gravitational wave carries a trace of its origin. Everything in the universe leaves a mark, even movement itself. The universe, it seems, is always remembering itself through vibration. When you close your eyes, can you feel the universe breathing? Do you sense that quiet motion beneath everything? I'd love to know how far you've drifted with me tonight. You turn your gaze forward again, following the last wave as it stretches into darkness. Somewhere beyond, its energy begins to fade into the cosmic background, a faint hum joining the great symphony of existence. And within that hum, you sense something subtle forming. Not motion this time, but memory, a record of the universe's first light. The journey continues towards something older than stars, quieter than gravity, yet still glowing faintly, a remnant from the dawn of time itself. You have followed the ripples of gravity to their source, backward through time, toward the first light that ever was. The darkness ahead of you isn't emptiness, it's the universe before memory began. For a moment, everything feels still, suspended, and then you see it faint, delicate, all around you. A soft glow stretching across every direction at once. It is not bright, more like the light behind closed eyes, but it fills everything. This is the cosmic microwave background, CMB, the afterglow of the Big Bang, the oldest light you will ever see. You're drifting through the universe's infancy. What surrounds you isn't stars or galaxies, or dust. It's pure radiation, stretched thin over billions of years, cooled to a whisper of warmth. The temperature here is just above absolute zero, yet it holds the memory of fire. This light was once blinding. When the universe was young and fierce, everything was so dense that light couldn't move freely. It was trapped within a fog of particles. But then, the universe cooled enough for atoms to form, and suddenly, light could travel. That was the first dawn, the first time the cosmos saw itself. And this soft radiation glowing faintly around you now is the echo of that moment. Every photon you feel has been traveling ever since, untouched, unchanged, unhurried. You let one of those photons pass through you. It's older than any star, older than any atom in your body. It left its birthplace nearly 14 billion years ago, carrying the story of beginnings. You can almost feel it whisper, "I was there." The color of this ancient light has shifted with time. What began as fiery brilliance has been stretched by the expansion of space itself, red-shifted into gentle microwaves. It's not visible to your eyes, but you feel it in your skin, in the quiet warmth of existence. It is everywhere, always the background hum of being. Astronomers once built instruments to listen to this glow, expecting silence. Instead, they found a soft, persistent static, the echo of creation itself. The first light had never gone out. It had simply dimmed to peace. You float deeper into it, letting the photons slide across you like mist. They carry the map of everything, tiny variations, slight ripples, uneven patches of brightness. Those faint patterns are the fingerprints of the first structures, the seeds from which galaxies would one day grow. From this glow, everything began to take shape. It feels like drifting through memory, not yours, but the universe's. Each flicker around you is an echo of what was once unimaginable density and heat. And yet the energy that once filled all space now feels gentle, tender. Even creation, it seems, has always been quiet at heart. You think of it as the universe's first lullaby, a warmth that never left, a hum that never faded. Even now, every night when you look up at the sky, you're seeing only the newest chapters of that same story. Behind every star and galaxy, this ancient light still glows softly, like a memory that refuses to die. You pause in the middle of this ancient sea of photons and close your eyes. The glow isn't just around you, it's within you. It vibrates softly, like a pulse that has never stopped since the dawn of time. You realize that the universe, in some sense, is still glowing from its own birth. You open your eyes again, and the glow seems to move, not outward, but forward in time. The photons grow fewer, the darkness between them greater. You begin to see faint points of concentrated light forming in the distance. The first stars awakening, the universe's first true structures, its first bright children. You follow them, leaving behind the quiet sea of radiation. The warmth fades, replaced by cold starlight, just beginning to burn. The next story is about those stars, the ones that first broke the darkness. Ahead lies the age of illumination, when the cosmos first learned how to shine. You drift out of the quiet glow of the cosmic background, and the darkness ahead begins to change. Everywhere, hydrogen and helium, the simplest of atoms, are beginning to gather. Gravity, patient and quiet, has started to weave its next creation. For hundreds of millions of years, the universe has been cooling, resting, waiting. Now, its stillness stirs. The invisible fabric begins to pull on the lightest gases, drawing them into invisible knots of density. Each knot grows, pulling more of the surrounding gas toward it, the first clouds of creation forming. Within one of these clouds, deep and dense, pressure begins to rise. Atoms collide more often now, their temperature soaring. The center glows faintly, not yet a star, but the first heartbeat of one. And then suddenly, it ignites. In an instant, the collapse turns to creation. Hydrogen atoms fuse into helium, releasing bursts of radiant energy. The light that spills outward has never existed before. It is the first starlight in the universe. The dark ages have ended. You watch as the new star burns, fierce and blue-white, blazing against the velvet black of ancient space. It is enormous, far greater than the sun that will one day warm your world. These first stars, astronomers will one day call them population 3 stars, are pure, made only of hydrogen and helium. They are the cleanest fire the cosmos has ever known, burning hotter and faster than any that will follow. Their lives are brilliant, but brief. Its light pours outward, carving through the fog of gas and dust that once hid it. For the first time, shadows appear because now there is something bright enough to cast them. More stars begin to form nearby, born from other collapsing clouds. Soon the darkness blooms with scattered points of light. You're watching the universe awaken from its first sleep. These first stars live quickly, their energy immense, their gravity unstable. In only a few million years, many will end in spectacular explosions, scattering heavier elements into the void. They are the universe's first alchemists, forging carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, the raw materials of life. Their deaths will seed the galaxies to come. You realize that everything you know, planets, oceans, breath, thought, begins here in these colossal furnaces. Every atom of you was once part of a star like this. As you move through this newborn space, you notice the stars clustering together. Gravity draws them into spirals, filaments, and glowing webs. The first constellations of matter begin to take shape. It feels like watching thoughts form in a sleeping mind. The silence of the dark ages has given way to a chorus of brilliance. You hover before a star, nearing the end of its short and furious life. Its heart is filled with heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, and iron. At the center, gravity tightens its grip. The star, once swollen with light, begins to collapse inward. The outer layers fall like rain toward its core, compressing with such violence that the temperature rises beyond imagination. Iron cannot fuse. It consumes energy instead of giving it. And when the core becomes too heavy, it turns against itself. Gravity wins. And then, in the quietest instant imaginable, everything reverses. The collapse rebounds with unimaginable force. Energy explodes outward in a single shattering pulse. The star becomes a supernova, a flash so powerful that it outshines its entire galaxy. You drift through the expanding debris, surrounded by color and motion. Red and gold filaments swirl like ribbons weaving through the silence. Matter that once belonged to the star now races outward in waves of fire and dust. Hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, iron, all flung into the dark like seeds scattered by the hand of creation. The shockwave moves faster than thought, reshaping the space around it. It collides with nearby clouds of gas, compressing them, awakening gravity once more. The universe, you realize, does not waste anything. Even endings become invitations to begin again. As you move through the remnants, you sense something else, a new kind of matter forming, elements heavier than iron taking shape for the first time. Gold, silver, uranium, all born in these final seconds. Every precious atom that will one day glitter in rings, mountains, and hearts, forged here in the death of a star. At its center, a core remains, small, dense, and pulsing faintly with residual energy. It could become a neutron star, or, if massive enough, a black hole. The cycle continues. Creation through destruction, silence through sound. You realize that the entire universe is built on this paradox. Stars must die for galaxies to live. Chaos must unfold for order to arise. You pause in the stillness that follows. Space is cooling again, but not empty. Everywhere, scattered remnants drift quietly, drawn together by gravity's patient hand. The universe has learned to renew itself, not by avoiding endings, but by transforming them. You turn toward the distance where faint threads of dust begin to collect again. Something new is forming there. Not just another star, but entire families of them. The scattered elements are gathering into vast, rotating structures. The first galaxies taking shape. The universe is growing up. You move through a universe that has begun to organize itself. The wildness of the early cosmos is softening, slowing, settling into form. Everywhere you look, faint streams of light twist and flow, connecting clusters of newborn stars like threads in a vast cosmic web. The universe is weaving its first architecture. Gravity, tireless, patient, deliberate, begins to shape them. Slowly, the clusters merge, their orbits tightening, their paths aligning into spirals, spheres, and disks. You watch this ballet unfold as if in slow motion. Clouds of gas collide and condense, their impact sparking bursts of new starlight. Streams of matter stretch and swirl, caught in the invisible pull of dark matter halos, unseen skeletons of gravity that give galaxies their shape. The darkness, it turns out, is not empty. It's the framework upon which light is built. One galaxy forms before you, small at first, a glowing knot of blue-white stars spinning within a halo of invisible mass. It rotates slowly, each revolution taking hundreds of millions of years. Its arms begin to extend, curling outward in luminous ribbons, tracing patterns that seem impossibly delicate for their scale. This is beauty written in gravity's language. The spiral arms lengthen as more matter falls in, drawn by the galaxy's deepening gravity. Each orbit stabilizes the next, building structure out of motion. If you could listen, the galaxy would sound like harmony, a slow, continuous hum of balance and becoming. You move between them now, drifting through time as billions of years pass. The galaxies grow larger, brighter, more intricate. They begin to gather into clusters, enormous families of stars and gas bound together by gravity's invisible threads. And between these clusters stretches something vaster still, the cosmic web, a lattice of light and shadow that connects everything. You reach a spiral galaxy forming near the edge of your sight, hundreds of billions of stars swirling around a bright core. At its heart glows something more mysterious still, a supermassive black hole born from the merger of the first collapsing giants. It does not destroy the galaxy, it anchors it. Around it, light bends, gas swirls, stars orbit in precise harmony. The black hole is not a void here. It's a conductor holding the rhythm steady. Without it, the galaxy would unravel. You drift along one of its spiraling arms. The stars here are gentler, yellow and orange, cooler than their ancestors, destined to live for billions of years. Somewhere among them, small worlds are forming from dust and debris, tiny planets that will one day orbit quietly, waiting for something improbable to begin. You can sense the faint tug of destiny in the air, a slow movement toward complexity, awareness, life. But for now, the galaxy simply turns, patient and complete. Its spiral arms stretch across hundreds of thousands of light years, tracing eternity with quiet precision. You realize the universe is beginning to look familiar. The galaxies look like fireflies caught in an eternal dance. They collide sometimes, merging into larger forms, reshaping their stars, mixing their histories. Nothing is wasted. Even in chaos, order prevails. You float at the edge of this cosmic cluster, where light fades into darkness again. The silence feels immense, but no longer lonely. You can feel the pulse of 1,000 galaxies moving together, not in unison, but in shared purpose. The universe has found its structure. If you're still awake, still floating in this quiet expanse, I'd love to hear your thoughts. When you look up at the night sky and imagine the Milky Way, our own home galaxy, how does it make you feel? Do you sense comfort in being part of something so vast, or wonder at its impossible scale? Share your reflection below. I read every thought as part of this drifting journey we share. You look one last time at the glowing spirals turning in the dark. They feel alive, humming with energy, their light moving endlessly outward through time. And within one of those spirals, not yet special, not yet known, lies a cloud of gas preparing to ignite. It will become an ordinary star with a few small worlds circling it, and one of them will look back. You drift within one of the countless spiraling arms of a newborn galaxy, a river of light flowing through time. Here, in a quiet corner, gravity begins its work once more. A vast cloud of gas and dust floats in the dark. Hydrogen, helium, carbon, iron, the debris of dead stars waiting to live again. The cloud trembles. A nearby supernova's shockwave ripples through it, stirring what has slept for eons. Gravity seizes its chance. The particles draw closer, spinning slowly around an unseen center, a dance beginning again. The cloud flattens into a thin disk, wide as 1,000 solar systems, glowing faintly with friction and heat. At the center of this swirling sea, the pressure begins to climb. Hydrogen atoms collide, fuse, and ignite. A light pierces the dust, soft at first, then fierce, then steady. The star has been born. Its warmth fills the disk, pushing away the cold and the darkness. Jets of gas erupt from its poles, carving lines of brilliance through the surrounding haze. The planets have not yet formed, but their seeds already drift in the dust. You move through the disk, where gravity is sculpting structure from randomness. Tiny grains of rock and ice collide, stick together, and grow. First pebbles, then boulders, then mountain-sized fragments. Each collision adds shape, turning the dust into worlds to be. Closer in, the heat melts the ice, leaving only metals and stone. These will become rocky planets, small but solid, destined to hold oceans and skies. You watch one forming now, a molten sphere glowing orange beneath a veil of gas. Its surface churns, alive with volcanoes and lightning. Farther from the young star, it is cold and shadowed. Here, gas gathers differently, forming enormous swirling gas giants. Their moons dance like smaller systems of their own. The newborn star glows brighter now, clearing the remaining gas from its surroundings. What remains are planets, moons, asteroids, the leftovers of creation. The solar system is finding its balance. Time stretches forward. The star matures, its light softening into a steady gold. Planets cool, atmospheres form, oceans gather, clouds begin to circle. Somewhere on one small world, rain will soon fall for the first time. It is a soft sound, but one that changes everything. The story of matter has become the story of weather, and soon, of life. You realize you are witnessing not just the making of a system, but the invention of stability. The chaos that once ruled here has given way to harmony. You turn your gaze outward, seeing how countless other systems are forming all across the galaxy, each one a different arrangement of stars and worlds, each a variation on the same cosmic theme. The universe doesn't repeat itself, it improvises endlessly. You know that among its orbiting worlds lies one still cooling, still quiet, waiting to awaken. Something is forming there, invisible now, but inevitable. It will begin in water. It will learn to grow, to sense, to think, and it will one day look back at the sky and wonder how it all began. The next chapter drifts softly toward that moment, the dawn of biology, the birth of awareness, the first breath of life itself. The first cells awaken, the storms are endless. Beneath a thick sky, lightning forks through the air, striking an ocean that never rests. This is a world still in the process of becoming. Beneath the surface, the ocean spreads like liquid night, vast, mineral-rich, restless. This is where the story changes, not through the creation of stars, but through something smaller, gentler, infinitely more fragile. Here, in the quiet corners of this young ocean, the universe begins to fold chemistry into life. You descend through the murky waters, past plumes of heat rising from the seafloor. Within those clouds, molecules drift and meet. Some cling together, forming chains, membranes, and bubbles. Tiny spheres form naturally hollow droplets made of oily molecules that trap water and chemicals inside. Not alive yet, but not lifeless either. In one of these bubbles, something unusual happens. A strand of molecules finds a way to copy itself. Each replication is imperfect, yet the errors create variety. And variety is where survival begins. You're watching evolution's first whisper. The first true cells awaken quietly. They have no consciousness, no thought, only reaction, replication, persistence. But in their smallness, they carry the first spark of something new, continuity. The universe has learned to sustain itself through memory. You float among these early cells, and the scale humbles you. Within each one lies the code of everything that will ever live. All of it begins here in bubbles smaller than dust. The planet itself responds. As life spreads, the chemistry of the ocean shifts. Carbon is absorbed. Oxygen begins to gather in trace amounts. The world starts to breathe. For millions of years, this quiet transformation continues. Cells evolve into colonies, colonies into mats, mats into structures that reach upward toward the light. The first ecosystems bloom beneath the waves, simple, delicate, astonishing. The universe has invented endurance through collaboration. You realize that life did not arrive suddenly. It unfolded gently like dawn across the sea. The cells multiply, covering rocks and shallow pools. Through them, the cosmos has found a new way to exist, not just as matter, but as meaning. The storms have quieted, the seas still churn, but the surface now glimmers under a gentler sky. The first cells are still here, simple, efficient, unhurried. For billions of years, they have fed on chemistry alone, but the sun above calls to them. Its light is raw energy waiting for translation. And somewhere deep within one of these simple cells, a molecular trick is about to change everything. Inside a small greenish microbe floating near the surface, pigments begin to absorb light. Photons strike those pigments, exciting electrons. What was once heat and glare has become motion and chemistry. The cell captures the sun's energy and uses it to split water, freeing hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen feeds the cell. The oxygen escapes, invisible, weightless, drifting upward into the empty sky. For the first time, the air begins to change. This is photosynthesis. The cell learns not just to survive, but to create abundance. No longer must these cells depend on volcanic heat. They can live directly on light. You hover above the ocean's surface as more and more of these microbes gather near the light. They form shimmering mats. Each day they bask and each night they rest, releasing tiny bubbles that rise to the surface and burst softly into the air. Each bubble carries the breath of a future atmosphere. At first, the oceans absorb most of the new oxygen, binding it with iron to form rust-red sediments. But eventually, the iron runs out. The oceans can no longer hold what life keeps giving. Oxygen begins to escape into the air, mixing, rising, transforming everything it touches. The blue of the sky deepens. The atmosphere, once suffocating, starts to shift toward balance. New forms of metabolism, new possibilities for growth emerge. The planet is no longer just alive. It is collaborating with life. The oxygen will also bring change. For many of the ancient microbes, this new element is poison. Others adapt, finding new ways to hide. From these survivors emerge new forms, eukaryotic cells, with internal structures that use energy more efficiently. The world has learned cooperation at the smallest scale. The great oxidation of the planet has begun. The air fills with the byproduct of light. Clouds form in patterns the world has never seen before. The planet's rhythms, light, air, water, life, are fully connected. The circle is complete. You hover at the edge of the atmosphere, looking down at a blue world shimmering with possibility. It shines from reflection, from participation in the cosmic cycle of light. You look toward the horizon, where land masses begin to emerge from the mist. Life is about to climb from the sea to the land, to reach upward to see the sun directly for the first time. The next chapter drifts gently toward that moment when life learns to rise. You drift above the coastline of an ancient world. The air is thicker now, filled with oxygen and warmth. Beneath the waves, the first pioneers are gathering courage. In the shallows, mats of algae cling to rocks, forming soft green carpets. Every wave that retreats leaves behind a trace of life that refuses to wash away. You move closer to the water's edge, where the boundary between sea and land blurs. There, small threads of life cling to the damp surface, early plants, primitive but determined. Their roots are not yet roots, their stems not yet stems, but the pattern has begun. They are the first to stay. Their presence cools the surface, softens the soil, and creates tiny shelters where moisture lingers. They turn rock into earth. The land, once lifeless, begins to smell faintly of growth. From the sea, the next explorers emerge. Strange finned creatures rise from the shallows, drawn toward the safety of the tide pools. They move clumsily, their bodies heavy and unpracticed in gravity. Yet something in them persists, a quiet instinct to reach farther. You watch one pause on the sand, its fins press into the mud, trembling, uncertain. It does not yet walk, but it pushes forward a few inches, then falls back, and then, after a moment, it tries again. Every step taken by future creatures, every human footprint, begins here, in this hesitant push toward the unknown. Fins grow stronger, turning into limbs. Lungs evolve from air bladders, learning to draw breath instead of current. The land begins to fill with sound. The rustle of leaves, the scrape of movement, the first faint hum of insects rising from the shallows. Plants rise taller, weaving forests that stretch toward the sunlight. The cycle between sea, air, and land becomes a perfect loop of renewal. The earth, for the first time, glows green. Creatures grow bolder, more complex. Insects take flight. Amphibians walk farther from the tide. Reptiles appear beneath the thick canopy. Each step is a quiet rebellion against the boundaries of origin. And still, everything remains interconnected. Even those who climb the land depend on the ocean's memory within them. Life carries its birthplace wherever it goes. The air smells of rain and stone and beginnings. The world is no longer silent. It sighs, it rustles, it breathes. It feels like watching a child take its first steps, uncertain but unstoppable. You turn one last time toward the sea. The waves continue their rhythm, touching the land they helped to create. Behind you, forests shimmer under a golden light, teeming with forms. Above them, the sky waits, vast, open, inviting. Life has learned to stand, to breathe, to reach, and soon it will learn to think. You move through a forest that hums quietly with life. The air is thick and sweet with the breath of plants. Everywhere, creatures crawl, fly, leap, and hide. Each one guided by something new, something unseen yet powerful. The world has learned how to notice itself. Consciousness does not appear all at once. It is born slowly, like dawn through mist. A nerve cell fires, a pattern repeats, a connection strengthens. The mind begins not as thought, but as rhythm. In the forests, neural systems grew more intricate, eyes for light, ears for sound, noses for scent. Each sense adds a new layer to the story of perception. You drift beside a small amphibian perched upon damp moss. Its eyes blink slowly. For the first time in history, a creature looks not instinctively, but curiously. The universe has created something that can wonder. Every nerve impulse, every flicker of attention is a miracle of chemistry. Within that quiet storm of electricity, patterns form: recognition, memory, anticipation. Awareness begins to stretch forward in time. As minds evolve, so too does imagination. Some creatures begin to play, to chase, to mimic, to explore for pleasure rather than survival. Play is the universe learning to enjoy itself. It is proof that consciousness has moved beyond necessity and into curiosity. You look deeper inside a brain as it fires. A single thought, if it could be seen, would shimmer like lightning trapped in a forest of neurons. The brain is not an organ of control, it is an ocean of light. Empathy begins to flicker the recognition that another's feeling is not separate from one's own. And from empathy will come language, art, memory, and story. But for now, the spark is still young. The mind is testing its limits, building the first fragile bridges between self and world. The forest feels different now. It no longer exists only as a stage, but as an experience. The universe has entered into dialogue with itself through awareness. You sense how fragile it all is. And yet, against every odd, it persists, deepening with each generation. The cosmos is teaching itself. to dream. You watch as the sky brightens through the canopy. Somewhere among these creatures, one lineage will rise higher, thinking not only of survival, but of the stars. Hands will shape tools. Eyes will look upward. Minds will ask why. The next chapter drifts toward that threshold, when curiosity becomes creation, and awareness begins to reshape the world itself. The forests have grown quieter. The air, once filled with the wild symphony of instinct, now hums with something new: deliberation. Beneath the rustle of trees, creatures are not only acting, but considering. You drift above a river where a group of early primates crouch near the water's edge. One of them lifts a smooth stone and strikes it against another. When the stone splits, it leaves behind an edge sharper, more useful than chance. The creature pauses. The first tool has been born, and with it, the first true imagination. From that moment, the rhythm of life changes. Hands that once grasped branches now shape the environment. The mind that once reacted now plans, remembers, anticipates. The gap between intention and action becomes the space where intelligence grows. The early humans gather in small circles, their fires glowing like stars scattered across the plains. In the flickering light, they speak in sounds that begin to form patterns. Language is being born, the first breath of shared meaning. Words link thought to sound and sound to others. Now ideas can outlive the thinker. The universe has learned how to talk to itself. Art follows. Hands once busy with tools begin to draw. Pigments stain cave walls, tracing animals, hunts, and the shapes of the stars. These are not just marks. They are declarations. I am here. I saw. I remember. This is the first evidence that imagination has become part of evolution. Outside, the world continues its quiet rotation. But within the minds of these creatures, something eternal has begun. The questioning of why. Why do the stars move? Why do we die? The same questions that burn in their ancient eyes will one day lead telescopes toward galaxies. Intelligence, it seems, is not about answers. It is about the endless grace of asking. You drift forward in time and see civilizations rise from that same impulse. Languages multiply. Architecture reaches for the sky. Mathematics traces the laws of motion. The universe has found a way to reflect on itself through us. Each thought, each question, each dream is part of that reflection. You realize that intelligence is not separate from nature. It is nature becoming aware of itself, the cosmos finding language for its own astonishment. From dust to cell, from cell to mind, from mind to meaning, the journey has never truly been about survival. It has always been about understanding. You look back across that journey now, from the first stars to this single human thought. Every pulse of light, every act of curiosity, every quiet reflection has led here. You are not apart from the universe. You are one of its ways of knowing itself. You understand how delicate and miraculous this awareness is. In every thought, every heartbeat, every act of kindness, the cosmos continues to evolve. You are its continuation, its question, its answer, its hope. Now take a slow breath. Let the stars settle behind your eyes and drift into sleep, knowing that even as you rest, the universe continues thinking through you.